Thank you very much. Laskin Corla. Well, I too would like to congratulate Deputy Mary Upton for putting together a very comprehensive motion here tonight, and also for producing an excellent document extending the Welcome Labour's proposal to sustain and develop the tourism industry, which she has published. Like the previous speakers, there's a lot of concern about the failure of the government to really act and to take the appropriate action to create the environment that is necessary for promoting the tourist industry. The statistics are very stark indeed. If we see that tourism generated 5.2 billion in Ireland last year for the economy, vital part of the economy, 4% of GDP, created nearly 120,000 jobs, and that itself was a drop of 12% on the previous year, and some 35,000 jobs. So almost a quarter of the jobs of the previous year were lost to the tourism industry, with 1 million visitors less. So clearly it's in free fall to a considerable degree at the present time, and it is vital that the government act to deal with some of the fundamental problems in the sector that are inhibiting potential growth and, more importantly, are threatening the jobs in this that already exist in this sector. Last weekend, Minister, I attended the World Street Performers, the World Championship of Street Performers in Merrion Square here in Dublin. It occupied the square itself, and it occupied the surrounding streets. And the whole area was a blaze of colour, with tents and marquees everywhere, and street performers performing all over the place, people selling all sorts of foods and goods. And there were over 100,000 people there, mainly families, and they had a wonderful time. Now, the idea was the brainchild of two young Dublin brothers. Dublin City Council came on board, as did AIB, and created a major tourist event, which is now going to be moving on to London this weekend, and then will move on to other European city capitals throughout the year, and will come back to Dublin, and it's going to be operating on an annual basis. However, despite all of that, and that this is the type of creative thinking and job creation which is required, the government and the Department of Enterprise and Innovation, to the best of my knowledge, made no contribution to the event. It was done entirely on a shoestring by other agencies, and this is something that is of enormous benefit to create jobs in the area. Now, there are numerous ways that the government should prioritise, I believe, to contribute substantially to creating the right environment for job creation and for the tourist industry. And at the heart of the tourist industry are good communications. Deputy O'Shea already spoke about the whole area of the internet and the broadband, and it is scandalous that at this point in time we don't have the necessary broadband penetration that is essential for modern day tourism. And this has been pointed out now for a long period over the years, and nothing has been done. Likewise, interactive tourism applications for mobile internet devices and computers are essential, and we don't have them either. Better internet access also allows different tourist amenities in an area to work together and support each other. For example, Minister, why have we no Wi-Fi directory for tourists that they can use? And tourists are crying out where they can access Wi-Fi and where they can access free Wi-Fi. Also, why are there no interactive maps for tourists to use as they travel around Ireland? These would be enormously useful for tourists. There are none. Simple ideas like that which would facilitate travellers in Ireland. Of course, we are an island nation, and an air travel tax at the point of entry / exit is really foolishly erecting barriers to overseas visitors. And I really do believe that this travel tax should be abolished. It's not assisting getting money into the economy at all. It has the opposite effect. And despite the promises that we've had over the last decade, Ireland still has little or no integrated ticketing. Every developed country in the world has managed to overcome this rather minor obstacle and introduce integrated ticketing, and certainly in all the capitals of Europe it's there. And it really is essential that a person can hop on a bus and transfer to Lewis, the Dart and the Rail. That should be just quite basic requirements that would be operating in our capitals, in our cities, all our cities at the present time, throughout the entire country. So the government has failed to take the necessary action to ensure that this is available for our tourists travelling the country. In relation to another matter which has again been referred to, and that is the whole question of the difficulties and the obstacles to visitors in terms of overseas tourists getting visas. Now, the Schengen Acquis was introduced not for the purpose of providing an obstacle or a barrier to tourism, but that is really what it is. And all of the countries outside Schengen, that are in Schengen, we are outside it, are having difficulty through visa applications. Very substantial delays taking place. And then when you go outside Europe entirely, now most of the tourism would be from Europe, from Britain and from the United States. And remember that there is a diaspora of 80 million people that have to be tapped into. But if you go to the other side of the world, you go to China, you go to Asia, you go to the Middle East, there are huge quantities of tourists, potential tourists, that are finding it extremely difficult to get visas. It's almost as though the Department of Justice and your own department is trying to keep people out of Ireland in many cases, rather than encouraging them to come in. So could I say in conclusion that the small and medium businesses need the funding to be able to operate in this area? And once again, we have this, you know, the statements coming from the SMEs saying the funding isn't coming through, the banks aren't making credit available, they need regular funding. There are so many operations that are dealing with tourism that need a steady flow of capital coming through. That's not there. Steady flow of credit coming through, and that's not there. It is high time that the government got its act together and stimulated this particular area. They haven't done so to date. Thank you.